Who's Your Daddy Now is one of my favourite interracial adult videos, but also happens to be the title of an achievement in Resident Evil 7 for beating the game on its hardest difficulty, Madhouse. Now, to ensure that Madhouse didn't speedrun cardiac arrest, Capcom provided the player with bonus weapons like the Albert that harnesses the power of the sun in every single shot. But what if you wanted to strip it all back and make Resident Evil 7 Madhouse a truly terrifying survival horror experience? The pocket knife and a pistol are the first two items that you receive in Resident Evil 7. Combined, they have about the same damage output as trying to waterboard someone with olive oil. Trying to beat the game using these two items was surely to leave you with a traumatic brain injury, but was beating the game on Madhouse with just a knife and base game pistols even possible? Unfortunately, I was about to find out. We begin our story with Mia Winters sending a video to her husband Ethan that her business trip had gone awry and not to come looking for her. 3 years later, we join up with Ethan, who is disobeying those orders as he claims Mia had been found, so we were travelling to the deep south to follow a lead. The pussy must have been crazy to willingly travel to Louisiana. Arriving at the location, things were not looking good. As in, my game was not looking good. Stepping outside the car, I was instantly hit with bad news as it appeared that Uber Eats did not deliver here. Inside the house itself, the lack of natural sunlight had me worried for Mia's vitamin D levels. However, in the kitchen there was still hope for food until I opened the microwave to find a crow stuffed in there. I searched the fireplace in the living room until I find its G-spot, tugging at it to reveal a secret room with a door created for those under 6 feet tall. Leading under the house, Ethan has absolutely no reaction to the dead body floating in the neck-deep sewage water he was currently paddling through. Eventually we do find Mia, here, locked up in some kind of basement room. Her first words to me are, "Daddy's coming," but honestly, with the pancake she's rocking, I don't think Daddy will be coming anytime soon. Now back on the ground floor of the house, I searched for Mia until I started hearing noises coming from the basement again. It was indeed Mia, but this time she was making noises similar to that of a bath draining water, and had the skin complexion of the broccoli that's been sitting in the back of my fridge for 3 weeks. Acting out a domestic scene from what it would look like in the 30s if my wife burnt dinner, we eventually put the axe into Mia's neck, ending the marriage on mutual terms. A potential new wife arrived quickly through Amazon Prime's same-day delivery, as a girl named Zoe gives us a bell and tells us to head to the top of the house. On our way there though, we are interrupted by Mia asking about the prenup we signed upon marriage, as Ethan's left hand was apparently one of the items she'd be taking. Ethan's wank arm now completely detached from his body, we committed to going upstairs, where we found our first pistol of the run. This would be serving us for our first fight of the game, the fight against Mia, as she came back, this time wielding a chainsaw. It was agreed she would take the gravy boat, Ethan would have the TV, but this dispute was over the air fryer. However, after about 20 pistol bullets discharged into her face, Mia kills over, giving Ethan full control of the air fryer. Looking forward to tonight's chicken tenders, I don't have much time to celebrate before turning around and getting right hooked by Jack. Coming to at the kitchen table, I was now sat with Jack, Marguerite, and Lucas, looking to scran on a delectable medley of toilet pipe blockage. Ethan upsets Marguerite after spitting out some of the food she had been preparing for hours, which causes a family dispute, leaving us to escape from the chair. Now free, we needed to grab a key to access a hatch in the back room and escape this place once and for all. Unfortunately though, standing between us and the key was Mr. Jack Baker. Getting around him was actually pretty simple though, as despite Ethan feeling like he runs through water, if you simply weave around Jack, you can grab the key before he can rotate that thick ass around and grab you. It was under the house I popped until I went back up to find our first safe room of the run, where I opened the storage container to see our forbidden fruit sitting there. Knowing I wouldn't feel the firm shaft of Albert for this whole run filled me with a bit of dread, but there was no time to be wasted as I chatted to a police officer who was arriving on the scene. There was reports of many people going missing in this area, so didn't trust Ethan too much. However, he still trusted us enough to give us a very, very important item. His pocket knife. Despite dealing about as much damage as slapping someone in the face with a McDonald's chip, it was absolutely crucial to this run for a part that was coming up later. First things first though, we had to take care of Jack, and with no pistol yet, I resorted to getting behind the wheel. After 3 firm vehicular back shots, Jack jumps in with me to take the wheel and firmly grasps my inner thigh like my driving instructor. After driving us headfirst into some steel beams and breaking his own neck, I finally get a moment to search the room where I find our our first pistol of the run. Quickly putting it to use, I blow Jack's skull through before making my way into the main hall of the house. In here, we would find the next crucial item for this run, the assault coin. The assault coin increases our damage by 15% with every single weapon, making me 15% less likely to down a bottle of Dettol during this playthrough. The catch is it required 8 antique coins to actually unlock, the antique coins which I would be finding throughout the house. And it would just so happen that Jack isn't actually dead. He's very much alive and is very much roaming the entire house, waiting to split Ethan in half. So before finding any of these antique coins, I first needed to pull out a little trick from the Resident Evil handbook. You see, if we made it to a certain point in the basement of the house, we could actually trigger a cutscene that would move Jack from the top floors of the house all the way down to the basement, making the entire house safe to loot. So it was off I went to find the crow and unlock the secret entrance to the basement, where I died. Repeatedly. Simply possessing the knowledge of getting Jack to spawn in the basement was one thing, but when you factor in the abundance of molded standing between Ethan and the checkpoint, things start to look a whole lot more arse-clenching. And you might be thinking, well, George, why don't you just shoot the molded? And while that is a valid question, it is a stupid one. With a Jack boss fight right around the corner, I needed to save every single piece of ammo possible, as I didn't even know yet if it was possible to beat Jack using just a pistol on Madhouse. So that meant I had to rely on Ethan's agility, which is a bit like relying on your girlfriend to walk past a Primark and not go in. My scream sounded like Ethan's. After an hour of suffering already, I finally managed to make it to Jack's cutscene and back to the save room without getting my cheeks taken by the molded. Now free to roam the house without the worry of Jack coming to ruin my day, I took time to grab everything I could, including all the antique coins needed to secure the assault coin. With as much ammo as I could possibly find and the assault coin now in my inventory, there was one final crucial step I needed to take before I fought Jack 1. Enhanced pistol ammo. This was the lifeline of the entire run. Beating Madhouse with just a pistol is impossible, but beating Madhouse with a pistol and enhanced pistol ammo, now that might be possible. So having searched every corner, every crack, every crevice, every granny's fanny, I finally felt like I was ready to try and take on Jack in his first boss fight. The only thing standing between me and Jack was, well, the walk from the save room all the way to initiating the boss fight. With me being unable to clear any molded who stood in my way, this walk was a little bit like going through the back streets of London at 2 AM. Entering this boss fight with just a handful of healing items, 45 pistol ammo and 32 enhanced ammo, my plan, it was to kill him. How exactly I would do that? Well, I didn't know yet, as I was more unprepared than that kid that always forgot it was own clothes day at school. Where's he gone? Whoa! Fucking Jesus Christ! Jack, why are you so stealthy, bro? So, what did I learn during my first few Mickey 17 test runs, you ask? Well, unfortunately, it was not a lot. Usually, with every death comes a lesson, but I was really struggling to wrap my head around this equation and was starting to doubt if this was even possible. I had 3 bullets left there and he's not even close. He's not even close. I don't know if this is possible with how much ammo I have. The main problem was the game expects you to use the chainsaw provided to beat Jack, and I don't know about you, but I would not classify this pistol as a chainsaw. I had an hour of attempts that led absolutely nowhere, so I decided that it was time to enact some help from the GOAT, Tal Gabby's Resident Evil 7 guide. Popping on my glasses, I find that Jack has 4,500 health, and my enhanced pistol ammo with the assault coin dealt 345 damage per hit. With some quick maths, we can say that's about 13 bullets needed to hit Jack, which I definitely was capable of, but the massive gooch standing between me and defeating him was his invulnerable states. Jack took 0 damage until his head got exploded and exposed his weak spot. To get him to even expose his weak spot, I needed to hit him with 10 regular pistol bullets, so I could then unload the 13 enhanced ammo into his brain. But once again, it wasn't as simple as it sounded. Only 1 enhanced pistol bullet at a time counted as real damage. After that, it would break the animation where he once again would become invulnerable. Using some more quick maths, if I needed to get him into the down state 13 times, and it took 10 bullets every single time to do that, I would need 130 pistol ammo, and that's if I didn't miss a single shot. And big man, if you take a look at my supplies, I simply did not have the facilities for this. With my pistol now being about as useless as Jeff Bezos' barber, I got to work with the only other weapon I had in my inventory, the pocket knife. Using my ginormous brain, aka a YouTube guide, I was able to figure out that we can pin Jack in the corner so we could continually slice away at that grey skin. While he's pinned in a corner and you're slicing away, the only other thing you have to do is duck his attacks, until after about 5 minutes or so of slicing, he would break free from the animation lock and got back to wildly swinging. This is where the difficulty of the knife-only run comes into play, as now he was free roaming the arena, you can once again pin him in a corner and get him stuck in the animation, but it was pretty difficult to get him back to this state. I suffered for even longer. More hours piled on top of what I had already been through with the pistol. The deaths were stacking high, and I was on the opposite of a speed run. This was a elongated run. Eventually, after a run that saw me swinging away at my knife for 10 full minutes, I finally managed to get Jack stuck back in the animation, and therefore was able to overcome the biggest hurdle of the run, which was literally the first hurdle of the run. Appropriately, I teabagged Jack and proceeded to head outside of the house. Out here, I found a caravan which would act as my new save room. A couple of cold ones in the fridge, wholesome family pictures scattered around the place, and a grenade launcher, teasing me, just waiting to explode in my hands. The other divine source sitting in the caravan was the smell of sweat coming from Zoe's old clothing. High off that hit, we continue onward to climb up this absolute mountain of dog shit, which next up contained Marguerite's outhouse. I was expecting this to be a nice little break after Jack's boss fight, but my god, was I in for a surprise. With the house in a state that not even the British social services would deem fit for a child to live in, my main problem here would be all of the bugs. These little shits are intended to be dealt with using the flamethrower, but with my limited inventory, I had to rely on my knife. So every time I ran into a bug's nest and these little bastards decided to swarm me, I literally could not do anything but swing my knife wildly and hope for the best.
You are blood! You are blood! You are blood! You are blood! You are blood!
Shooting the sacks was certainly easier than stabbing them, but was also depleting my precious ammo stocks. What mattered though was our progress in the game, so through using a lot more resources than I was planning, I managed to make it through this puzzle of a house while avoiding Marguerite, using the stench of her stinky feet as a tracker. We do have to fight this gilf before we can leave the house, but luckily, Stage 1 Marguerite is an absolute cakewalk, as all you have to do is keep walking around circles in this pit and shoot her in the face before she can send any of her bugs down onto us. After a few well-placed shots to the dome, Maggie comes crumbling down into my pit and evaporates into a pool of mold. But that was not the last that we will be seeing of her. In the crow room of Marguerite's house, we find a briefcase where I was hoping she was keeping an eclectic mix of vibrators, but unfortunately, it was just the mummified corpse of a child. Here, Ethan discovers that this mold can actually be cured with a serum made from a D-series head and arm, so once again, we bell up Zoe. Like a serial killer, she casually mentions that she has a head lying around in her fridge next to the milk, so it was up to Ethan to secure an arm. In order to obtain this arm, I would first need to venture into the greenhouse and defeat Marguerite Stage 2. Stage 2 was a warning for what this fight can give you if not properly equipped. And I don't know about you, but I would not call a pistol, knife, and autism properly equipped. Marguerite had taken a quick trip to Turkey, but rather than obtaining the BBL, she instead went for the elongated limbs with a brand new bug womb. These new limbs would assist her in hitting a whisper in the wind from the ceiling like prime Jeff Hardy. Along with that, her newly installed bugina gave her the ability to spawn bug nests around the entire greenhouse, and you already saw exactly how things go whenever bugs decide to lock onto me. The odds were stacked dangerously high in Marguerite's favour, but just like Leicester in 2015, just because the odds aren't with me doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a little bit of faith. You see, this new Bugina was actually the crux of the entire fight, as with her 15,000 HP pool, this was her weakest spot. So, like my first gay experience, my tactic was to attack the sack as fast as possible with relentless pressure. When Marguerite was facing me one-on-one, things were actually going pretty well. However, when she'd slip off into the cracks of the greenhouse, she'd pop out somewhere at an unknown random location and begin laying bugs nests everywhere. I couldn't track all of these bug nest locations, and sometimes she'd pop up on the other side of the house, and with Ethan running like he has mayonnaise in his shoes, it was impossible to catch her in time. Even with our new pistol, the M19, that upped my damage from 100 to 120, she was matching me bar for bar, so I had to lock down and learn her patterns as I started to understand where she was placing these bug nests. I also learned that if I could find her before she gave birth to this nest, I could hop in for an emergency C-section and stop her from ever placing them. I had her weak spot, I had her patterns figured out. All I needed to do now was just shoot Marguerite until she fell. Unfortunately, I couldn't keep shooting because I had run out of ammo. Once again, like Jack, I was exerting all of my ammo with Marguerite, seeming no closer to death once I had depleted all of my reserves. I could use my knife here again, but unlike Jack, there is no animation exploit. It was simply a matter of skill with the blade. Skill I did not possess. I had already sunk over 2 hours into this boss fight, and I was moments away from a Marguerite-induced psychotic break, not even knowing if this was possible or if I even had the knife skill to complete this boss fight. I made a discovery that could potentially save everything. You see, there was ammo boxes dotted around the entire greenhouse, and I realized that I had been making a huge mistake. I was looting these boxes early in the fight, and I was only ever being given the rations of 5 pistol bullets per box. However, in a rare instance where Capcom decided to be nice to the players, Resident Evil has a difficulty adjustment, where the lower you are on ammo, the more you are given. So rather than running in here, getting all the ammo I possibly could and getting on with my day, I decided to run a little test. Could I use all of the ammo in my gun and then loot the box to gain more ammo? Sixteen pistol bullets. Capcom had given me a big kiss on the lips with this difficulty adjustment. With 4 boxes in the greenhouse, rather than getting 20 extra ammo, I was now getting 64 extra pistol bullets. The only question that still remained was, is this enough to actually get the job done? Oh my god, did I do it? Oh my god, I fucking did it. Oh. Jesus Christ. After nearly 3 hours watching Big Mags turn into a crusty seaman shell, I was reveling in the post-boss clarity. Yes, I only had 13 pistol bullets left and 2 herbs, but we will sweep that under the rug for now, as it was time to put the weapons down. Travelling into that creepy bitch Evelyn's room to find this D-series arm, I come across some of her artwork. Honestly, if my child ever come home from school with a drawing resembling this, she can forget about the fridge, as I've already got the demonologist on speed dial. I grab her nan's arm and make my way back to the caravan where we get a bell, this time not from Zoe. It was Lucas, the bald geezer from the dinner table earlier. He says that Zoe is taking a little break and invites us to go through his House of Horrors. Despite being a House of Horrors, it wasn't actually that much of a scary place. The most frightening thing here was the fact that Lucas was 25 and was sporting that hairline. This part of the game is actually pretty easy as long as you know all the trap locations. Fumbling my way through the Lucas extravaganza, he ends everything off by forcing us to take on 2 BBWs in a barn. Somehow your mother found a way to duplicate herself, and she had been binging the wine all night long, so the projectile vomit was dangerous. However, in an event more unexpected than my dad returning home with the milk, I had actually prepared a strategy for this stage. I won't bore you with all of the technicalities, big man, but it pretty much consisted of getting your mother over to this exploding box so I could detonate it and take one of them out. Ethan, being the tank that he is, can actually survive this, while it deletes your mother from existence, severely reducing the migraine-inducing status of taking out your mother's twin. Capcom did not appear to like my preparation though, as I was hit with a fairly common RE7 bug of these fat boys being completely silent. Why do I have no audio when they're thrown up? So I was relying totally on visuals, and even at her prettiest of times, your mother was no treat to look at. Needless to say, this massively complicated everything. I tried resetting checkpoints, I tried restarting my entire game, but I could not unbug the bug that had already been bugged. So after way more deaths than I had initially hoped for, being way behind schedule on my penciled in 11 PM wank, at long last, your mother finally made it into the corner where I exploded the box and took her with me. Or it didn't go to plan in terms of killing her, but because I am a pro gamer, I managed to improvise from here on out, circling the large ladies and discharging my firearm directly into their face. One by one, I dropped the BBWs and completed every challenge Lucas had thrown at me. He asked if I wanted some birthday cake, but I politely declined as my gluten intolerance would have me pinned down on the toilet bowl for the next 12 hours if I so much as took a bite. Finally, securing Zoe's D-series head she had been defrosting for me overnight, I can now go on to finding her and Mia and hopefully get to crafting this serum so we can fix this mold. I find them both tied up in the boathouse where I only have one question. How much money does this family have? A mansion? An outhouse? A boathouse? Who on earth is pulling bread like this? Anyway, I hand Zoe the ingredients needed to make the serums, untie Mia, and whoa! That was quick. How the fuck did she make those? Where did she... Is there a lab in her ass? What in the... Anyway, before we can commence the threesome, that cockblock Jack is back once again. This time he had grown tentacles and wanted nothing more than to insert them into every orifice in Ethan. Despite his newfound girth and staggering health pool of 30,000, it would be this size that we could use against him. You know what they say, it's not about the size, it's about the colour. Or, no, sorry, wrong quote. It's not about the size, it's about how you use it, and using it, he was not effectively. If we travel to his backside once we're in the water, we can actually stick to, what we'll call the tail for now, travelling around with him every time he moves. And due to Jack having the turning circle of... he didn't have a turning circle. We could pretty comfortably chill back here while shooting most of his eyes out without facing any sort of repercussion. Once he climbed above us, we could bait him into using this easily blockable attack to then find the eyes that we can't shoot while he's in the water. With plenty of ammo already stocked up and a few boxes dotted around the arena, if we applied the same tactic as Marguerite's greenhouse fight of waiting until I was low to loot the boxes, we had nothing to worry about. The fight simply just required some patience, as whittling him down using nothing but my pistol took about 20 minutes. It was, however, on the second stage where things went from smooth sailing to an absolute tsunami of bumfuckery. All I had to do was shoot Jack in the eye a few times, but with his constant slamming tentacles being almost impossible to avoid and damaging me too frequently for me to even heal in between them, I was left with one option, shooting him and hoping I can tank all the damage before I die. My problem was my gun. My gun was not actually strong enough to kill him before I took too much damage and died. Even if, as soon as his second stage started, I started shooting, it was still not enough to kill him. Unlike the other boss fights, it wasn't any sort of lack of ammo holding me back, it was my lack of a trigger finger. In order to shoot enough bullets to take down Jack before I died, I felt like I needed one of those Xbox 360 rapid-fire controllers that turned your Desert Eagle in COD 4 into a full-blown walking chopper gunner. I think I had been thrown so hard by the stump that this could all end on this boss fight that I was beginning to lose focus. Over an hour and 8 deaths sunk into this fight, all of my FPS skills just seemed to be leaving my body at once. It's like what Jamie Carragher once said, you have to leave the Resident Evil before the evil residents leave you. However, this was all a blessing in disguise, as my next run I used only regular pistol ammo to take down Jack's first stage, where I scraped by, barely missing a single shot, and with literally 2 shots remaining, I initiated stage 2. This meant that I had nothing but enhanced pistol ammo to shoot at his eye, so I had my moment I had been praying for. All I had to do now was not slip and land as many shots as I possibly could. No victory lap, no celebration, simply a sigh of relief that I was no longer going to have to deal with Jack's bullshit. With Voiy passing me one of the serums, I solidified Jack into a mountain of semen, but then came to the realization that we now only had one serum left. A decision to make. Mia, our wife, or Voiy, some girl we literally just met a couple of hours ago. Despite the pristine smell of sweat I had a hit from earlier on Voiy, I decided to choose Mia. Not because she was our wife, but because if you choose Voiy, it literally just means that you have to have a Mia boss fight later in the game, and I didn't really fancy that one. We say sorry lol to Voiy and boat away to our happily ever after, until another tentacle monster interrupts our plans. Waking up beached, we're now controlling Mia as she's stranded on a nearby ship. We find Ethan unconscious on the floor, and when looking at him in third person, I realise something really important to the run. He has been doing all of this in fucking loafers. Honestly, pulling off all this while in loafers, I mean the blisters must be screaming out of his feet right now. The poor guy was going to need an intense foot massage once we were done and dusted here, but for now, it was time to venture onto the ship and find out what this was all about. On board, I realised this is a loving retelling of Titanic, if Titanic was infected by a dangerous mold that makes you kill everyone. We learned that the source of the mold wasn't actually the bread left over on the worktop. It was a little girl named Evelyn, created as a bioweapon. Apparently, someone on board of the ship took away her iPad while she was watching Cocomelon. The consequences were catastrophic as she proceeded to kill and infect everyone on this ship. Little Evelyn is in search of a new mother to feed her Cocomelon content, but Mia's refusal is only making things worse as I have to dodge multiple molded as I go deeper into the ship. Eventually I find a videotape, and unfortunately it's not containing granny softcore, but a video of a woman tracking Evelyn when the Cocomelon incident first happened. Equipped with a fat knife and SMG, neither of these qualified as my jam sandwich inventory, so I had to dodge my way around every single molded I found. Due to the many hours of suffering I had already endured, this was actually pretty easy. So easy in fact I started telling the molded about my Harry Potter hot takes. I never liked Quidditch as part of Harry Potter in general. I'm not really a Quidditch guy. The tape ending with Evelyn exploding the ship and launching our unnamed character out to sea. She did not have a Jack to sacrifice his shrapnel for her. Now back in the present, Evelyn was once again demanding to be fed Cocomelon content, but Mia stood strong in her mission to find Ethan. Finding the little loafer wearer she did as we freed him from the mold and sent him on a mission to capture and compromise to a permanent end. Evelyn, whatever the fuck her last name is. The ship had conveniently beached at a local mining facility where Evelyn had also unleashed her mold on the workers. Now in the endgame, ammo was no longer a concern as I was sporting more bullets than your average conservative household in the USA. I could have just shot my way through all the molded standing in my way, but I felt like that was going to waste a huge chunk of time, so I made the 200 IQ play of simply just running. The molded, however, decided to divide my 200 IQ play by 100, making it a 2 IQ play, as running proved to be a lot harder than I initially thought. I'm not kidding when I say that what should have been a 15-minute part of the game took me over an hour to complete because I was having so much trouble with these fat molded at the end. After an intense and unnecessary cheek clapping in the mines, I defeat your mother for the last time and make my way to Evelyn. With one last serum left, I injected it into her neck to reveal that she was none other than the Gilf from the Baker estate the entire time. Mutating into more woman than even a man like Ethan can handle, she drags us into the garden, where I didn't know if my little pistol and knife would be enough to take her down, but luckily, once again using Amazon Prime's one-day shipping, we had delivered our final base game pistol. It was none other than the Albert, and finally, I felt the touch of him in my grasp as I took that shaft and unloaded it into Evelyn's face, finishing this story once and for all. I put my achievement for beating Madhouse, and I did it on my terms using only base game pistols and the knife. Ridiculously stupid terms that I would not recommend to anyone. Ethan is saved by none other than, whoa, who the fuck is that? That is not my Chris Redfield. Loaded into the chopper with this cosplay Chris, Ethan and Mia are reunited and go on to live happily ever after. If you are somehow not yet sick of me, I would appreciate it if you clicked on the video popping up on your screen now, as the YouTube algorithm is recommending it, and who are you to disobey the almighty algorithm? Thank you, love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.